So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Monday, the 17th of November. Damn, we're already getting through Q4, a terrible Q4 so far. So, quickly, some metrics. I believe that this week is relatively okay. I mean, there's always data coming out. Oh, FOMC on Wednesday. Okay. FOMC on Wednesday, that's a big event. Non-farm payrolls, unemployment rate, those are actually decently big data points as well. Existing home sales, so jobless claims. Yeah, potentially some quite important data coming out on Thursday, but I would say that Wednesday is probably the most important one, being FOMC. Apart from that, no real other events to keep an eye on in the meantime. Let's start off the long to short ratio. Let's actually see what's happened to this since the last time I looked at it. Which was, I think it was at 76 on the 14th, right? So yeah, we've kind of just stabilized around 76%. This is actually just insane. 77% long on the long to short ratio apparently on Binance. So everyone's still long, but definitely a very interesting thing. We are seeing some shorts re-enter, but it's nothing significant at this moment in time. So yeah. Max pain starting at the 3-day because I don't really like the 24 and 48 hours. Long max pain sitting at 94, shorts at 97. That's quite nice, quite simple actually to see. Long max pain on the 1 week sitting at 92.8 and long 97.5. Sorry, short 97.5. Short on the 2 week 97 again. So kind of seems like we're closer to the long max pain on pretty much every time frame. The larger time frames are sitting at 92.9-ish, so just underneath 93, which we basically wick to already. So I believe most of the long max pain is kind of been taken, unless I just go to 24-hour quickly, 92.8. So there might be like a really tiny bit just underneath the wick that we did Sunday at 8 p.m. on that. Well, actually, that'll be just on the 4-hour candle that wicked down to the low at 93k. But to be honest, most of that long max pain has been taken. We have bull dived on the 4-hour time frame, so let's see what happens. We'll get into that in a second though. Again, looking at the charts. Wait, make sure I've got, yeah, everything's fine. Again, looking at the charts, it seems like we're kind of starting to taper off, but that's what we thought when we got up to 73% the first time. I'd actually like to just see the weekly time frame for once. If this loads. Yeah, that doesn't look great. So when was the last time? Do you know what we could actually do here? The last time we got this high on the long to short. Oh, bro, wrong one. Horizontal line. The last time we got this high on the long to short ratio on the weekly time frame was back in September 2022. That's on the weekly time frame. To be fair, you could probably call that close enough in September 24. And then we had a similar level on the weekly, which went to 73%, and that was the just before the April lows, and we actually bull dived on the weekly. So potentially, I mean, I don't want to say we're getting close to something because I feel like a broken record recently, but there's a potential for a reversal here, but we just need to see something a bit more. Again, I'm actually watching sort of like 80k to 85k. As a good like ending point for this whole move on the weekly time frame. But let's see. I mean, you know, this has been kind of been like this for a while anyway. So, but we are at some of these crazy levels, and we'll have a look at some of the like the retail stablecoin demand to see what's going on a little bit better. CoinGlass Legend. I mean, the only reason I use this is for the the volume. But yeah, we lost that low that volume node pretty much. I think that's Sunday. I'm not sure where that is. And then on this 4-hour candle here, which was on 11:13 actually. So that was a while ago. That was on the 13th, so a few days ago, and then broke down, and then yeah, made new lows. Okay, cool. I think we talked about that last week. So yeah, watch sort of 100k 101 to 103 as a potential area for rejection if we do see a little bit of a bounce from this area. Anyway, let's move on to charts. I feel like I spent way too much time on that estimated bullshit. Right. Okay. So yeah, Bitcoin. I've got this weekly Stuber on, obviously coming in around 80 to 85k. We're talking about this 100k level needing to hold last week. We got, a few candle closes above, and a very weak pop up to 106 and a bearish retest on the daily underside structure, and then broke 100k back down to 93, 94, which was our next target. Now, we are getting, again, we're very, very oversold on the daily time frame, so this could be another area for a potential bounce. But I would not expect this to go much further than 101k at this time. Sort of similar to what happened here, where we had a decent amount of support, closed a few candles with some wicks below, and then just bounced up to the previous sort of like swing low from the daily time frame. So there's a bit of potential for something here. If we just switch the retail stablecoin demand as well, it could be a bit lower. It could be a little bit. I've actually seen it a lot lower at certain points. But we are starting to bullishly diverge on the 12-hour as well, and this is probably going to double bullishly diverge as well. So again, you kind of need to see a break of structure before you want to take any of these trades, because just a bullish divergence doesn't mean much in itself. I mean, this bullish divergence, it did give an 8% pump on Bitcoin in total from week to week, which is not the worst, but again, the trend is still down, and until we sort of like, break above 101, maybe go up to 106, do a higher low, it's just bearish retest, seize on. Let's have a look at liquidations. Do you know what really that I would like to talk about with Zeus after is there's not much long liquidations left on the MDX Algo for our liquidations. Yet we're 77% long. Someone needs to explain that to me, because the amount of high leverage shorts above us all the way pretty much to, I mean, this stuff isn't high leverage up here, but pretty much there's high leverage all the way to 117, which is absolutely insane. And it's probably just setting up for that one big FU all the way up. Now, I'm not saying we're going to get that right now. Of course, what we need to do is we need to probably make a 4-hour close above 96.1 ish, close a candle above there, and then a bullish retest, bang, and then we can talk about going back for 106. But yeah, until then, I feel like 80 to 85 is definitely going to be some sort of weekly time frame reversal. If we get some closes below 73.4, then yeah, everything's pretty much toasted. I do think we'll get a little bit of a bounce, but it'll probably be a lot more shallow, maybe just up to 100 and then back down all the way to 55. But if we hold that low, we could have a little bit of a decent bounce, all the way even up to 115 potentially, where all that liquidity is. So basically, one more down into 786. Everyone's like, oh, bear market, and then rip all of that potential. But yeah, don't know yet. We'll just play the levels until then for the time being. If we just go to the hourly, yep, trend still hasn't really changed. We would like to see a close above 90. To be honest, the 4-hour is a little bit better. close above here, pretty much where we are right now, where we're finding resistance, and then we might have a good chance to come for like 99k, and then potentially up to like 103 and then 106. But we've got a lot of resistance here. I'm not really sure if I see too much of this being broken, and a lot of this liquidity, you know, could potentially be taken on this wick from 96.5. So if we do get a bit of like a local break like this, I would expect it to go to like here and then somewhere in here before getting a pullback. But yeah, until then, you know, watch the 5 minute. You do have some sort of like bullish structure here. Potentially you could try and get a Stuber from the lows if you're looking at something like this, like a full lows retrace. But apart from that, that's about it. I mean, it looks like it wants to bounce a little bit, but again, I would expect it to be rejected somewhere in this area. So yeah, that's a bit about it. How's everyone else feeling? I mean, yeah, we're coming down pretty hard. That previous weekly candle definitely broke a lot of stuff and was very nasty. But yeah, it is what it is. Let's actually have a look at the volume delta really quick, just to make sure that we have everything. I've been saying this, brother, every time we get to one extreme. Yeah, it's just that we were extremely long at 100k. We were at that extreme, so I was thinking maybe we might see a little bit of a bounce, and if it closes higher than 108, we might see a trend reversal back up to the highs. But we just did that really, really weak retest, and then failed the lows as well. So I might have to clean up this chart a bit. Yeah, there is a small amount of bullish volume coming in on underneath 100k, but it really is not really enough compared to this bearish volume. And that pretty much comes up from 108 all the way up to 116. So I think it's highly unlikely that we will see 120 to 124 now. Like this area that I wanted to hit, pretty much down here. I think it's highly unlikely just because of all this sell pressure in between 110 to 116. Anyway, let us move on. What's PAX doing? Not too bad, not too bad. ETH Bitcoin on support, not. It's okay, it's okay. Let's have a look at ETH. And go to the old 4 hour. Yeah, again, ETH is bullishly diverging on the 4 hour. Potentially, we could break this high and see like a little test of the yearly open. The weekly opens, obviously, you know, lose the daily weekly and you're going to go lower into 2.93. I would probably be waiting for that at this moment in time. I think even if we get a bounce up to like the weekly open, 3.6, 3.5, potentially we're going to get rejected just because we have a new low into this support. And I do think this support is worthy of getting tagged, especially if we do like one more wick down. Again, if we drop 2.9 to 3 on ETH, the next support is going all the way back, basically down to 2.5, 2.6. So, again, maybe on some local regains, there's a bit of a potential bounce play. So close above, you know, 3.25-ish, like here, kind of where we're going. And then you might be able to get a bounce trade on the weekly open, which could take you all the way up to like 3.6. Which actually would be a really good setup. So something like close above here, a little bit of a pullback. That's where you enter your long. Obviously stop below here. I mean, potentially you could maybe catch something on here in case it does that. But yeah, stop below here, and then hopefully it does that. That could be a potential little decent little bounce trade that I'm watching. Apart from that, you know, it's still looking pretty bleak. I had quite a lot of hope for ETH up in this area when we were bullishly diverging, but yeah, we all know that story, eh? So yeah, I do think that is a potentially good bounce trade. And then if we do get up to sort of like 3.5 to 3.6, again, potentially an area to short for a rejection. Just very similar to Bitcoin in that sense. Although Bitcoin's is a little bit higher all the way up at 100K. High frequency is actually coming on the weekly. Let's just check the retail stable order on demand quickly. Yeah, 12 hours. 12 hours bullishly diverging. The daily, not quite yet. But we have some sort of double bottom anyway. But yeah, it looks rough. And I would say that you're probably expecting a bearish retest somewhere from 3.6 to 3.3 to ultimately go tag 2.6 to 2.5 on ETH. Yeah, sound decent? We gotta ride them waves, boys and girls. Ride them waves. Stu also asked, because it doesn't make any sense that top traders are also 74% long. So I was gonna say something about that. Top traders, I don't believe in that shit. I do not believe in that. Now, there was once upon a time where the top traders on Binance were actually very, very different to the retail. But one, how do they specify that? Two, what constitutes a top trader? Maybe it's just size of account. Okay, but I don't know. I don't really put a lot of weight in top traders. I just don't think that's very. I haven't really looked at it ever, to be honest, as being very reliable. It's interesting to see when they diverge, the retail and the top traders. Okay, if retail is super long and top traders are short, we might be going down, you know. But apart from that, I don't really think top traders is something that is, again, like you say, that reliable. It's just not that great, is it? But yeah, I am quite confused on that, so we'll have to talk about that after I finish my recording. But so it's kind of similar thing. We're actually getting quite close to locally breaking the downtrend, and I kind of like these setups quite a lot. These ones, because what we're doing is into the lows, bullishly diverge. We've got the weekly open at the bottom, and we've got this like grindy structure from the weekend, this grindy downtrend. So all you need to do is basically set a like really local high up to here, and then you could potentially pull a fib on the lower time frames like this and try catch something at the lows where the daily weekly open is. So similar thing on ETH. I actually quite like all this stuff, potential bounce trades, because the invalidation is also super tight just for a trade. So potentially if you see a close in 35 minutes above this level on Sol, what you go do then is you just go to the hourly and you can be like, okay, wherever it closes, potentially like over here or something. Okay, this is my zone, daily weekly open, down to the 86, stop's going to be below the low. Range is about 2%, happy to do that on 3x, 6% stop, fine, perfect risk, perfect setup. And then if you do get that trade, what you would do is you potentially short the next 4 hour backwards at M here. So on Sol it would be 1525 to 156 in that area. So then you have a long from here, you have a short from here, TP the long up here, enter your short, and then if you get like that, then you're in your short. If you get the higher low and then it goes up to the highs, then you're chilling, you're still long. But damn, this is getting really, really low down. What the hell? Let me delete all this stuff quickly. Yeah, so if I zoom slightly out on Solana, we're actually really close to some daily lows that we haven't seen in a while, like a long, long while. Down at 130 and below. So yeah, again, I feel like a bit of a broken record, but we're getting relatively quite close to a bounce area. Now, I just don't really see it yet. It's definitely starting to try. Um, but again, you want to see something a bit more substantial. And even here, we actually bullishly diverged along here, made a new high, and then immediately just broke the low. So it's showing a lot of weakness in the market at this moment in time. That even if we do make a local high and then get like a bounce, and maybe like come all the way up to here, that potentially could just do that and then go make another low. So be careful out there, guys. It's been actually brutal. This I don't think this was that bad. I mean, like, it was obviously bad for alts and stuff like that, but like these things that happen all the time, I think it's more like these bearish retests now. These are quite brutal. But I mean, you know, yeah, it is what it is. But I think yeah, potential trade on there. Definitely potential little short-term trade there. So what else? What happened with the CME? Quickly, no gap. I believe no gap. Is that a gap? Thursday, Friday. Yeah, no gap. No gap on the CME. Bitcoin DOM. Let's just briefly have a look. Actually, at the daily, seems to actually be kind of breaking down Bitcoin DOM. If we turn that off, what are we doing? Losing levels to go lower. Bearishly retesting. Interesting. Again, might see a little bit of a grind down on Bitcoin DOM down into Feb and Q4. Just this area. Interesting. That kind of goes with the theory that, well, not theory, but with the thing that ETH Bitcoin is actually sitting on support right here. So again, this hasn't changed its like structure since we've been doing these super bearish retests since here. We're obviously still in a downtrend, but potential support and actually potential area to look for some sort of reversals on the 4-hour. So, you know, this is the low. We've got some wicks in here. If we can make a new high from here, then yeah, we'll probably blast off, and then Bitcoin DOM will have a little bit of a wilt. But yeah, that's it for the like main sort of coins and the main points in the market update. I am watching for potential bounce trades just up to, you know, 100k would be a nice short for me, because I did say that last week if we lose 100k we're probably going to go to 93, 94, and then there might be a bounce up to 100 where we can short it back down to the 80s. That's probably my plan of action in terms of like swing trading this area. But yeah, that's it for the main stuff. And quickly, let's actually have a look at Trendmaster and liquidations on the daily time frame. So yeah, we literally just blasted through all that stuff. Not great. Anyway, yeah, is there anything else that people are looking at specifically? There's a thick amount of liquidations on ETH just below where we are. So underneath 3k, pretty much all the way down to 2.8. Which is interesting. And, oh, ZEC, yeah. Let's have a look at Hype as well, quickly. The dollar value of Max Pain is higher on nearly all time scales for short Max Pain compared to long Max Pain. Yeah, so the amount, so so maybe it's just the volume, but I feel like long accounts would take volume into account, which is why I'm a bit confused on long to short ratio. Like there might be more volume in shorts, but apparently there's way more longs. Makes no sense unless the long accounts is going off contracts, and then there's actually more volume in shorts. However, there are more contracts in longs, but I don't know, man. That's kind of sketching me out a little bit. That long to short ratio, but there's so much shorts above, like on everything. Like at some point, I know I keep saying like there's gonna be a bounce, there's gonna be a bounce, like a little bit of bounces. At some point, we're probably gonna rip a lot of this stuff. Maybe not the whole thing, but like ETH 4.1, 4.2, Bitcoin 110, maybe 115. I just don't believe these are getting a free ride, but yeah. Hype and Zek, and then I'll stop my recording. And we can just talk about that briefly. Turn these off, back off. So first of all, liquidations. Yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff to both sides. Overlapping support below us, quite nice. 36 all the way down to 34.5. That's pretty nice. Turn auto chartings off. What we doing? New low, unfortunately. Closed the new low out here. Okay. So that's the new low that you don't want to lose. Well, I'm not even going to put that on actually. Local price action actually closed a decent little 4-hour candle here. So potentially a little bit of like local trend change. You might be able to see that a little bit easier on the hourly from the low. This was your previous high, made a new high here. Potentially that already actually did. I mean, it did the 618 retrace. Again, this is kind of just looking a little bit sideways. It's actually holding up relatively well compared to the rest of the market. So, I mean, from May, we've pretty much been in, you know, this sort of like this range. Obviously, that's a bit of an outlier. That was pretty much the top deviation where I sold most of mine actually. I'd say that I've got nothing to say on this. It's literally just going sideways. It's a weird one because it's kind of penning out a little bit hype. As we have this high, we obviously have these new lows, we have this lower high, but then we kind of have a higher low here. So like if this was to make another high from here, but then potentially get rejected again, that would definitely constitute a pennant. I know, it just looks a little bit meh to me at this moment in time. Could obviously go and trade the 5-minute for sure. We'll have a look at Zek, then we'll stop our recording and have a nice little chin waggle. Actually, you have to look at this on this chart. Damn, okay, so thank you, need to jump out. Have a good day. See you later, man. Yeah, you only really need to watch the first like 20 minutes, to be fair, 20-30 minutes, and then we just kind of just tail off. Yeah, this is getting very close to a top. Very, very close. Look at these 2 weekly candles. So this one has a massive wick to the upside, while being very, very overbought. And we're getting very close to sort of like, I don't want to, this is not all-time high, but this is a massive, massive swing point all the way back from December 2017, by the way. You'll also see that the candle after that candle up has a massive wick to the downside. So this is definitely getting towards the end. You could also see that high frequency trading is coming off on the weekly time frame from being on. So this is definitely like running out of some sort of steam. Still in an uptrend though. Definitely like made a higher high on the 4-hour. bit sketchy. Definitely like made a new low and then made a new high. Definitely looks toppy in this area. I would say that, yeah, this is potentially the failure. That if you close a new candle below this, that will be the failure. And then you're just basically looking for a bearish retest all the way in this area to take you down to here and then potentially all the way back down to here. Not bad. Not bad at all. Things like this I do quite like, because now that you're here, there's a very tight sort of range for invalidation. It's obviously like break below here, you're going to go all the way down to here. Break above here, you're probably going to go up to here and then see some resistance. And so you could short and then try and catch a long here. Especially if you break down here, you might do that, this, and then come back in all the way into here. I mean, that actually didn't. I could do something like that. Catch something here, it goes all the way back up for the highs. Obviously, you'd have to trade on relatively low leverage to not be getting stopped down and stuff like that. But and then also the 5 minute is also really good to trade on a lot of alts. So something like this. You have a high or a low for that matter. You could even invert your scale, or a low for that matter, if that's how you like to work it. Obviously, this was your previous one, broke out, new one. That's where you jump in, probably in a decent trade here. Either way, it works. And then yeah, you take a bit of profit. Say it stops to break even. Hopefully, so if you're in a short from here, basically, you're in early and you're looking for this hourly to break right here. And if that does, you're just in a perfect, like a really good short. That's probably what similar things that Zeus is looking at, to be fair. Nice. So yeah, apart from that, oof, market's looking a bit wrecked. Ooh, Asta had a nice little pump. That was actually looking good last week. Just not really something that I'm interested in trading in too much, to be honest. Apart from that, looking a bit dead in the market this week. Well, at this moment in time. Today into tomorrow, we might see these previous highs taken on a lot of alts and a lot of stuff, and that will unlock a lot of these potential bounce longs up to these highs that we did early last week. Well, to be honest, all last week. But if that doesn't happen, we're probably going to do another leg down, which I'd say is less probable at this moment in time. Just to round off the recorded video. Do you look at Zek? Thank you. Dollar Manu. Okay, cool. So let me stop my recording, and then I really would like